Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Linda and today we're just having a very unscheduled day. So I'm making myself some lunch right now. It is well after lunch, but I wasn't feeling up to eating this morning, so I'm just having a little bit of lunch right now. I'm making myself a fried egg sandwich. And of course, I already added my pepper and I will be adding some of the everything but the bagel spice. Delicious. So I have been wanting to make my own sourdough starter. I'm not sure where to get a sourdough starter from. And I thought I had seen somewhere you just do equal amounts of flour and water and that's what you do. So I'm gonna start that. So come along and let's get it started. Obviously it'll have to sit on the counter for a while before it's actually gonna be fermenting and soured like a starter. But let's give it a try. I would do it in a glass bowl so I can keep an eye on the bubbles and just kind of see what it looks like. I'm gonna get my 1 cup of flour. And it said to add filtered water, so let's do that next. I'm not sure if it's picky with what kind of water or what kind of filtration system, but hey, I'm calling on the good old Brita to do the work. I guess we'll have to kind of blend that in so it doesn't get lumpy. I really hope I got the ratios correct. But I do have a muffin recipe that I'm thinking is kind of like a starter dough as well. It's I believe it's called the Amish Friendship Muffins. You have the starter in your freezer for when you don't want to use it. And when you want to use it, you just take it out and you let it sit on your counter for a few days, stirring it and adding flour. And I think that recipe calls for milk, but kind of the same idea. So I'm thinking it's similar. So here it is. I whisked it for a little while and it looks pretty smooth. So I'm just gonna scrape down the sides and then I'm gonna put the lid on there and let it do its magic, I guess. I did get a sourdough starter years ago from a friend of mine and it died on me. So here we go. Here's take 2. So I'm just gonna loosely put the lid on there. And I will leave it right there. See you in a week. At this point, I got a call from my husband telling me to come outside, and lo and behold, he pulled up with a new purchase. I see something. What did you get? Needless to say, once he got home with our newest purchase, we had to take it for a little ride and just cruise around and try it out, which was really fun. It was the perfect way to end the day before we had to head on to work that night again. The fog was hanging super low this night and the visibility was not great. Our window kept freezing up and yeah, it was really pretty to see the fog hanging over the towns and stuff like that. But let me tell you, once the sun did come up, despite the really poor road conditions, there was huge drifts from the wind and everything like that. The roads were not great. But once the sun came up, or even during the night already, the frost on the trees was absolutely magnificent. So at this point, it has been a couple of days since I started my starter, so it is time to look in on it. The recipe did call for 2 days of resting, and then that's when you discard the half of it and you add the flour and the water to it. As I looked in on this, like, I saw these red spots and I was a little concerned, and it smelled really sour. It did not look and smell good, you guys. It was actually really disgusting. So I did scoop off the darker spots and just discarded them because I thought it was really gross. And from there, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to salvage this starter, so I actually decided to split it in half, and instead of discarding it, I put it into another bowl, and I just kind of experimented with 2 starters in case one didn't work out. I thought maybe the other one would still work. So that is what I am doing here. Thankfully, as I started stirring it, it did start to look a little better. So I was getting a little more hopeful with this. But yeah, it didn't look really good. So I added in the flour and the water, and I let it rest until the next day. So the next day, here I am checking it again. It has definitely risen quite a bit, and it doesn't look gross. It looked like it had a little bit of a darker color on top, but I wasn't too concerned. It was definitely smelling a lot better. It smelled like an actual starter instead of like sour socks. So that was really good. So again, I discarded half of it, added new flour and water, and I let it rest again. And I repeated this process for 7 days. So we had finally reached day 7 of discarding and adding and letting it rest and ferment. Here I had measured out my starter already for my actual bread, and I'm adding the rest of the ingredients, the flour, the water, the oil, and the salt, and I'm just mixing it into a dough consistency. And it was really dry and dense, as you could see. I put a wet towel over it and I let it rest. It's a new day. It's a beautiful day outside, and I am excited to check my sourdough. So I mixed it together yesterday. I let it rest for half an hour. I punched it down, or I kneaded it, and then I put it into my oven, not turned on, just off with the light on for the second rise. I'm new to this, so I'm not sure what this is all about. So anyway, it said to let it rise, the second rise, for 8 to 12 hours, and I was tired. I worked last night, so I let it rise through the whole night. So anyway, I'm up. Let's check this out, see where it's at, and see what it looks like. I am so excited to see this. Okay, I'm thinking it looks like it has risen on there a lot. It is right to the top. On top of it? I'm not sure. Alright, so the recipe that I used, it did say to knead it. To me, it looks like a hot soupy mess. But we shall persevere. I have to be honest, I was not expecting it to be this wet, because it was so tight with flour yesterday. As wet and stretchy as that dough was, I didn't have to add a ton of flour to make it workable. As you can see, I can easily manage it. It is still very soft, but it is definitely workable. Yeah, there is no denying that it is definitely my first time doing this. Only after I had baked it did I realize I was only supposed to score it just before it goes into the oven, not before it goes into the last proofing. So here I go, scoring away. Alright, so I have shaped it and scored it and set it out to rest. It's going to do the second or third rest at this point for another 30 to 40 minutes. And yeah, and then we're going to proceed with baking it. So I'm going to go on, work on some other projects, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. I'm really hoping that it's going to rise the way that it did on the last rise, because that was beautiful. So anyway, let's come back in a little bit and see where we're at. So after resting an hour like the recipe called for, it had not risen as much as I had hoped for, so I stuck it in the oven and was hoping for the best. Alright, so it has been baking now for 20 minutes, so it said to remove the lid, which is what we're going to do, so let's check it out, see what it looks like. Definitely looks really wet. And needs to bake longer, so let's close that back up and it'll continue to bake. So while the bread was finishing baking, I decided I wasn't going to tackle any projects. We had actually rented a hot tub and this was the last day of the rental, so I actually went outside and enjoyed sitting in it because it was a beautiful day outside. It was really mild and just perfect weather to sit and relax in there. That went by entirely too fast and it was so relaxing. The bread is now done baking and I am pulling it out and let's see how it looks. Well, this is definitely not an artisan sourdough loaf. The scoring completely disappeared, but like I said, I should have scored it just before it went into the oven, but that's okay. You know, I am learning and this is my first bread. It can only go up from here, right? Alright, so the bread has rested for probably about 45 minutes or so. So let's cut into it and see what it looks like. Definitely has a crust. It is quite dense, but it's definitely got the air pockets, which looks good. good.
So it ended up being a little too sour for what I preferred. It's probably because I let it rise too long on the last rise. Definitely something to change for next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this kind of content, please like and subscribe.
It'll be amazing. It's gonna be my breakfast for tomorrow.